Hi everyone! So last night I managed to complete all 7 Uber bosses on Hardcore Solo Self-Found. This was my main objective for the season start. I have announced this boss race on Hardcore, you might have seen that. This is here on Maxroll. We are basically hosting this event and also soon a pit ladder starting on Tuesday. So if you want to participate, that one that is open to everyone, softcore and hardcore. But for now we have this. And well, the objective was to take down all of the tormented bosses here, the level 200 versions, and Uber Lilith, which unexpectedly got a mega buff and actually turned out to be the hardest out of all of these pretty much. So that was a really cool surprise. And after my rip on day 1, where I died farming for the Stygian stones in the pit, I decided to level another rogue and try it again. And well, we did it. And apparently I was the first person on hardcore to do so, at least from what we know. So that's kind of cool. It worked out in the end. It was a bit unfortunate with that rip on day 1 because I was farming the Stygian stones, and it turns out you actually get all of the stones that you need in order to summon all of the bosses once, just from completing the season journey and the Iron Wolves reputation grind. You get a total of 2, 3, and 8. It's 13 stones, and you need 12 of them. So that was kind of cool, and I actually had leftover stones after all. So yeah, a bit of a wasted rip there on day 1, but what can you do? We had no idea. And in the end, it actually worked pretty smooth. I played Rapid Fire for this. There's the ability you see here right now. My damage was better than I had anticipated, to be honest, because there were some surprise like hidden buffs in the patch for rogues. That was kind of nice. And I was expecting the fights to just go longer and, you know, go like maybe 5 minutes plus or so, and I'd have to do a lot more like outplaying of the bosses and so on. But yeah, it turns out we actually killed most of them pretty quickly. Outside of Lilith, the one that gave me the most trouble is the one you just saw, the Beast in the Eyes. Actually, this one seems to be the hardest out of all of the tormented bosses right now, I would say. And the second hardest probably Echo of Varshan, because you need to do the dance properly for several minutes, and you can kind of ramp up those stacks very quickly. But all the other bosses were kind of okay. I actually took down pretty much all of them first try. What you need to know about hardcore is you have only limited attempts whenever you try something like this because of the scroll of escape. It's the only way out of a boss fight. You can use the scroll and TP out, but you don't really get many of them. I had like a total of 12 or 13 scrolls after like 28 hours of grinding or so. So they drop like once every 2 hours. And well, I only had like so many attempts to try and go back, and you know, if I fail in one of the encounters, there was a pretty realistic chance that I would not be able to finish all of the bosses with the materials that I had. And especially knowing that the Lilith had been mega buffed, I really wanted to preserve some of those scrolls in order to actually attempt a new Lilith fight, because a few of the patterns have changed with the waves that she does in phase 1. She generally is like a lot beefier now. She has potentially a lot of damage when you stack up those tormented debuffs. So you gotta be very careful against Lilith, and I actually had to try her 3 or 4 times. But I did end up with like a few of the scrolls left still, and having all the bosses completed. And I gotta say, that was a ton of fun, man. I think Blizzard did a really good job with updating those bosses and also balancing them out a little bit more. For example, on the PTR, this was also part of my feedback. Some of the bosses were just way harder than others, and there are still the easier ones and the harder ones, but they all kind of pose a threat now at least. So that's kind of cool, but they're also not really OP to the point where you will never be able to take them down. Even kind of worse builds will be able to take them down if you play the mechanics correctly, so that's nice. And eventually we're actually gonna kill them pretty quickly in groups, I think. But for a race event, it was really cool to have this as an objective. I didn't actually try to level up to 100 the fastest, for example, so I talked about this in my day 1 summary. I kind of stopped leveling around level 90-ish, and I did the same again with this character as well after my rip. Because I was starting to prepare for the bosses. So I was trying to farm more gear, I was trying to farm more hell tides, I was trying to farm more boss materials, so that I get ready for those bosses. Because I knew that, yeah, the DPS is not such a crazy requirement, and I will be able to take them down as long as I play the fights optimally. But it was more of a problem of actually trying to get those boss materials. And luckily, the season journey made it way easier to get those Stygian stones, which are really hard to acquire. And in the end, it turns out I just wasted a bit of my time trying to farm more boss materials, because it was actually way easier to get than I expected, thanks to the season journey objectives. But also those require a bit of grinding. So you have to grind to the Iron Wolves to like rank 17. That does take some hours in Helltide. And yeah, some of the other stuff I also had to go for specifically. One very unfortunate event that almost cost me the entire race basically was that there was a bug here on Beast in the Ice. You can see this right now. This is this Tormentor debuff here on the bottom right. So I managed to scroll out here once without dying because I was almost dying. And then I came back to the fight and I just got 3 stacks whenever the fight engaged. And actually this could even ramp up. The stacks didn't disappear again. So I walked out of the boss room one more time and came back, and then they had 6 stacks, and then it would just give me +3 every time. So this is a bug. Usually those stacks are supposed to reset after the fight is over, or you die, or you go out, or something like that. But I actually had to abandon one of the dungeons because these stacks just kept popping up here, and I actually saw this last second here and managed to dash out. As you can see, this was me walking into the room, and then I saw this and I managed to get out just in time before the door closes. So that was nice. I also would have lost another scroll there, and I did actually lose my 2 Stygian stones used to summon this boss here in this moment. So that was kind of sad. I had to go re-clear the entire dungeon, and I walked there a few more times trying to fix it, but that didn't happen. So I hope that Blizzard will take care of this bug. And at the end of the stream, I actually had Lilith as the highlight of the race. So with Lilith supposedly being the easiest boss in this race, I was almost not going to include her. Well, she got surprise buffed like a lot, and she turned out to be the hardest out of the bosses. So that was really cool. That was a great surprise, and it was really fun to try to take on the new fight. And I took her down in like 3 or 4 attempts. So that was really nice. In general, they made it a bit easier to like dodge these skulls here, but they made phase 1 a lot harder, and she has a lot more HP. So this is kind of like what makes the fight somewhat difficult. As you can see here, she doesn't just like insta die anymore, even in a stagger, even with like pretty good damage output. So you do have to play the mechanics properly, and it felt very much like back in June. I was like back in the June race for like the Lilith kill, and all of the past experience came back, and my dodging skills were kind of coming back as well after like 1 or 2 attempts. So, all those practice runs kind of paid off here that I did back last year. But either way, this was a really cool fight, and I'm glad that Blizzard has done something about Lilith. For now, we'll see what I will do. I think I'm just going to try out more builds on the Rogue. So we have the pit. I want to try to push the pit a little bit higher. Maybe we can get to like tier 80, tier 100 or so. This would be a nice objective. Just try to learn more about the patch, get some better gear, since we have the pit ladder coming up on Maxwell as well. So I want to try to hit like a nice rank on that one. And well, I guess we're going to start making some ults soon as well to chill out a little bit, because those races here are pretty intense. It was like 2 days of like non-stop blasting. I had like a 26-hour stream and then a 16-hour stream or so. And I took her down basically right before the end. So this was like right before I was actually done for that day. I went for the bosses and we did it. We will be uploading clips of each of those boss kills because they're all pretty cool fights. And then you can also see the mechanics more. And this was the first kills of the season, taking them down with the rapid fire rogue. So that was really cool. So stay tuned for those. And also to everyone else who's participating in the hardcore boss race. There's a bunch of people like trying hard and ripping and everything. Well, good luck. We still have like a few more days in the race. I'm really excited to see who else is gonna take down some of the bosses. Maybe not all of them, we'll see. And I really hope that we're gonna see a lot of participation there. I know that some of the other blasters have already ripped. So I know Chronix, who was actually world first, level 100 on hardcore as far as I know. He ripped in the pit somewhere as well before he could attempt the boss. I know Oogie died somewhere as well on Beast in the Ice. And well, some of those bosses are pretty rippy. Even with the scroll ready to go, you can easily mess something up. Some of these mechanics can nearly one-tap you, or even one-tap you without any of those tormented stacks. So some stuff is kind of tough here. I try to play it somewhat safe, trying to outplay the mechanics, keep my finger on the scroll. But again, you don't have that many of them. So even someone who's grinding all day, every day until the end of the event, it's not really going to have all that many attempts after all. Also, for those of you who want to try to take on those bosses yourself with, not like a carry or anything like that, I'm still releasing some of the boss guides as well. So I have prepared some of them already, and there's more coming soon. So check my YouTube. There are a bunch of videos out there. And that's also it for the summary of this here. So let me know what you think about the Season 4 start. Let me know what you think about the event, and if you have been watching, for example, on the stream, or if you're following the race or something like that. Just any kind of suggestions are welcome as well. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed this one here, and good luck, and see you guys next time.